Hello wine lovers, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is my Lunar New Year celebration wine. So for all those who celebrate Lunar New Year, this is the year of the dragon. And so happy Lunar New Year to all of those who celebrate it out there. And I decided to open a bottle of 2015 DRC Echezeaux. So I will not go through the history of the DRC label. I did that in a previous video, which I'll refer to at the last part of, I'll put it at the last part of this video, a link there, where I think I reviewed the 1997 Romanee Saint Vivant from DRC. So this video will be about this wine and just a little bit about just drinking trophy wines and encouraging collectors to drink their trophy wines. This is part of my New Year's resolution. I would like to, this year and probably for years to come, at least drink one DRC each year. And that would be a nice goal for anyone. I think anyone who's blessed to even drink one bottle in their lifetime. And I do understand the blessing that I have by being able to drink these wines. Well, let's talk about Echezeaux first. And I've had other Echezeaux which I've actually reviewed on this channel, namely I think it was the Bichot Echezeaux. And so you can refer to that video, which I'll also put at the back of this video. So Echezeaux is fairly large region. It's actually about 37 hectares, something like that. The DRC actually owns about 4.67 hectares. And so that's almost 10% of the place. And in fact, Echezeaux is divided into 11 climates or plots, and 90% of DRC's holdings is concentrated in an area or climate or plot called Les Poulaillers. And so that is considered probably one of the top kind of plots of land in Echezeaux. The only one that might be a little bit better in terms of complexity is a place called La Creux or Vigne Blanche, where Ligier Belair and Jayer have plots of land there. So 2015 was a good vintage for Burgundy, and it was kind of this no real problem type vintage. And so that's really good in Burgundy. That's very unusual. So it got a lot of late ripening, and the grapes were able to fully ripen, and so they're gonna get a lot of intensity of flavor. So every wine in the DRC lineup in 2015, other than Corton, underwent 100% whole bunch fermentation. And that is supposedly not done very often with DRC. It has only been done in 2005 and 2009. And you can only do that if you have great ripeness in the grapes. I'm going to talk a little bit before we go into this wine in detail about drinking trophy wines. Some people will comment on this saying, Trophy, this is too young to drink this wine. You know, you're kind of being silly to actually open a wine like this. And here's my point. So first of all, I've had this wine, I think now 3 times. The first time I had it was in Bordeaux, I think in 2019, with one of I think the winemaker of Chateau Pavie in a restaurant. And I thought it was amazing at that time, and I never forgot that experience. The French generally drink things younger than we do in North America, but I was so surprised when he opened that, and it was great. So I had that recollection. I've had another bottle since then, and this is my 3rd bottle. So I have, first of all, some experience with this wine, and although of course it can last 15-20 years longer, it actually drinks very well young. And even if you look at all the commentary, even from the managing director of DRC, Aubert Villon, he says that this wine is actually, it's not a crime to drink this young. And this goes back to my point about drinking wines that you own. Because you would never know how this wine drinks if you don't drink wines younger. So some people will call it a waste. I would call it education. It's because I am now familiar with this wine. Again, I've had it 3 times. And so I kind of understand the progression of this wine. Most people, even critics, will probably just taste it at the beginning and then extrapolate. But that there's no substitution for actual tasting. So I think that's the first important point. The second point is, even when I was doing this video, but for the fact that I actually had told people I was going to drink this through my videos, and I actually had told people that I was going to share this wine, there's some hesitation anytime that you open a wine like DRC and any trophy wine that you might have in your cellar, because you're always thinking, well, it's too young. Well, it's not the right time. There's not a big enough occasion. And you can make a lot of excuses for yourself for not opening a wine. But as a wine collector and a wine enthusiast, the point of collecting wines is to drink them. And I find that far too often, collectors love the idea of owning a DRC. They don't love the idea of actually opening it, because that's their investment, that's their money, and wow, what in a way, waste to be able to drink this wine. And again, I'm talking to people that actually have the means or have some DRC, whether they bought it when they were younger. From my perspective, of course, you should not be drinking wines that are over your abilities in terms of financial abilities. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you have the means and you're already owning the wines, you do have to drink them. Unless you are committed to just being an investor and you actually don't like wines at all, you just buy wines for investment. I find way too many people actually call themselves wine enthusiasts, but they have a real reluctance to open their trophy wines. And that reluctance increases with the price of the wine. And that's understandable. I'm not blaming anyone for that, but I'm just saying that as a collector, think about that. Open your wines and almost force yourself, like I did, have a resolution. I've got to open one of my trophy wines every year. And I'm not talking about people that buy, one nice bottle of Chateau Lafite and have stored it for, want to save it for 20 years. I'm talking about collectors that have way more wine than I do, way more trophy wines than I do. It's not going to kill you to open a bottle. And so I encourage you to do that rather than just bask in the glory of just holding the wine. And I understand the idea, once I drink it, I don't have it anymore. But that's why you're a wine enthusiast, because you actually enjoy the wine and you enjoy the passion and you enjoy the actual tasting and learning of the wine, not holding the bottle. And I'm sorry if I come off as lecturing or preachy, but I have seen far too many instances in my life where people have spent their lifetime collecting wine, and whether because of health or because of death, that they have never drank the top wines that they've collected. So they've drank some nice wines, but a lot of them have never even drank all those wines that they coveted so long. And that's all I'm saying. You should probably drink them once in your lifetime so that you can actually appreciate what you have coveted all these years. And what ends up happening is that in these instances, they sell off their wine to other people that can enjoy the fruits of their labor. And also, people will, again, make a lot of excuses saying, just keep it for my children, or they'll drink it. That generally doesn't happen in my experience. Most of the children aren't as passionate. There are exceptions. This notion that somehow this collection will be kept for my children and their children, and they can enjoy this for 40 or 50 years, my fruits of my passion. That generally, I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all, but it generally doesn't happen. Most of the next generation will drink a little bit, but most of them will sell it off, quite frankly. And it just becomes an investment. And if you were going to do that type of investment, why would you take up all that space and, collect all these bottles? Why wouldn't you just buy stocks, or even buy stocks in wines? Most of the times when I see this, not every bottle could be sold. And in fact, a fraction generally of the collection is actually worth anything. Of course, with higher end wine collections, there's more of them. But in general, the collection of wines, let's say you have 10,000 bottles of wine. In general, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 will actually be of any value. So there's actually 4,000 that are basically giveaways. And so those wines would probably, you could have drank, you could have given to friends, you could have over the lifetime. And of those 6,000 bottles that you could have sold, you probably could have drank one a year and, really tasted something exceptional. I just want to hopefully spark some changes in some people in their approach to wines. Because again, wines are meant for drinking. This is what the owner of DRC always says too. They're meant for drinking. And the percentage of DRC that is actually drank is very, very low. I think it's in the teens, like 10 or 15%. And so really that tells you that people are collecting it, which is great. I don't think that's anything a problem, but I'm just saying, if you have an abundance of trophy wines out there, you should enjoy them while you can. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know your health, your financial abilities in the future. And if that's the case, really as a wine person, you should savor that experience, which I'm doing now.
So let's look at the DRC. This is the cork. And for 2015, a little bit of seepage in, but that's fine because it's okay, I think. Nice cork. This is the bottle. Echezeaux. Very plain, not much to the back of it. And then here we have the color of the wine. And it is a much darker shade of red than most Pinot Noirs that you see.
Enough of my preaching. Let's get to this wine. So I have had this open now for a day. I initially drank it with some friends, and out of the bottle, very aromatic. And by aromatic, I would say flowers like violets and roses. If you leave it in your room, the room fills up with this smell of floral smells in it. This is one of these weird wines. I've had this now open today and sitting in room temperature in my glass for a good part of 4 hours. No problem at all. Still smells great. So I don't know how they do that, but it's one of these few wines that can keep an aroma for hours and hours and hours. So that's kind of unique. So when you smell this wine, this is a very unique wine. On the smell, it's very aromatic. There's some fruit. I'd say, boysenberries and black cherries. And then there's a little bit of almost a mineraliness in this wine. And then some sweetness, some sweet fruit. And a touch of oak. But it smells, and when we get to the taste, nothing like anything else, any other Pinot Noir that you can think of. And the first thought I had when I smelled this wine and drank it was very much to me like Richebourg wines. So that intensity. So the color of this is quite intense, and the taste profile is very intense. And very rarely will I find a Pinot Noir, which what I would call tannic. So this is tannic. So it does leave that dryness in your mouth, but in a good way. It's soft tannins, but very few Pinot Noirs in the world I would describe as tannic. Maybe Domaine wines, something like that, right? Let's taste it. So very unique tasting again. It is much heavier than most traditional Pinot Noir, Burgundy Pinot Noirs. And one of the things that I think people associate with Pinot Noir from Burgundy, and one thing they don't like, is the high acidity and the like really tart cherry. So this has cherry, this has acidity, but it doesn't have that tartness. It is almost like a black cherry and more ripe cherry tones to it. It's got a undertone of kind of mineralness and gravelness and earthiness that is akin to some things on the right bank of Bordeaux, that type of taste. And then it's got a very long aftertaste that has a tannic component to it, which is, again, very unique. The other thing that strikes me with this wine is there are very few wines that I can drink essentially like water. So this is a 2015 wine, and it just is so smooth. I just can sip it and drink it. I had it with some salmon, and it was great. But even as a sipping wine by itself, I think it's really, really nice. Not that it's light, but it's almost like a course in a meal by itself. So a lot of people will always say, well, is it worth the price? So for me, when you get to a certain level, and that level was probably over maybe $100, $150, we never talk in that way, because really it's very hard to justify any wine, in my opinion, over $150 if you just look at it scientifically or empirically, because it's a wine, it's great, you know, is it really worth that more? In most people's mind, they would say no. But in my mind, the calculation doesn't go like that. That when you look at trophy wines, and particularly at the top level, the calculation of if it's worth it is not evaluated on points and the price. It is based on the experience. So that's something that's unique. And is this wine unique? And I can tell you it is. It is a very unique wine in a good sense. Again, I go through, I drink many, many wines through a year. You as viewers see that. You see how many wines I actually drink that are trophy wine levels. There are very few wines that I can say that are unique. Like, this is a very unique wine. Even among Burgundy red wines, this is quite distinctive in my opinion. This is definitely different than every other Echezeaux that I've had before. Those ones were good, but I didn't get it. I can see why this is more coveted than these other Echezeaux. Now, I haven't had the JR one, I haven't had the Ligier Bel Air Echezeaux, but I've had others. And although they're good, they are not at this level. And we're not talking about points, we're talking about impact. And I can tell you this wine is very distinctive among Pinot Noir wines. The taste profile is very distinctive. How it makes you feel is very distinctive. So I'm very happy to open this wine. Let's put it that way. Could this go on? Yes, it is a very young wine. It could probably go another 15, 20, 30 years easily. It will develop more, but it's drinking really well right now. So my rating of this wine right now is 95 or 96 points. So my point is, this may get to, in 20 years, 98 points. But why wait, right? It's a great wine. And so for me, as a wine enthusiast, a person that's passionate wine, there's probably no good reason to open this other than every day is a good reason. Every day you're alive, every day that you have health, every day that you're blessed is a good reason. And so my point is, there doesn't have to be a good reason. There doesn't have to be the right event, particularly with people that have a lot of wine and trophy wines. Don't use those wines as trophies. Don't use those wines as mantelpieces. They're living, breathing things that should be enjoyed. I'm not saying drink up your whole collection, but I am saying you should enjoy once in a while what you have coveted, what you have perhaps earned, what you have always wanted. And then you have to look at your rationalization. Did you want, or when you purchase this wine, did you want the wine because you really wanted to try it and you're passionate about this wine, or you've had it before and you loved it? Or did you buy this wine for the sake of saying that I have the wine? Those are two different things. And I'm not judging people. You know, you can do whatever you like with your money. But for me, as a wine enthusiast, why I buy wine is to enjoy them. And when I say enjoy them, that doesn't mean showing them off to my friends. That means opening them, enjoying them myself, and if I can, enjoying them with people around me. So I hope you have enjoyed this review. Very long-winded. Half of it wasn't about the wine, but until next time, happy drinking.